All right. So, Cormac, thank you for taking the time out to come onto the podcast. I really appreciate it.
No worries, John. It's great to be on.
Great. So, just give the listeners a bit of a summary, I guess, of what it is that you currently do.
Yeah, cool. So I guess I'm currently living in Ireland, so I'm just an hour south of Dublin, and I first went to university and I studied sports science and health, and I suppose the reason why I done sports science and health was mainly for the health. I'm obviously very big into my health, but and the reason for that is I suffer from Crohn's disease.
Mm-hmm.
So what Crohn's disease is it's an inflammatory bowel disease that can affect any part of the bowel. So it's can affect from your mouth all the way down. So I was unfortunate enough. I played sport at quite a high level when I was younger. I'm not sure if maybe you listened to my heard of Gaelic football, but I would have played when I was 16. Before I was diagnosed, I played being quite good at it. But unfortunately, I went through maybe about 6 to 12 months, I'd say, of extreme flare up. And at the time, I actually didn't know I had Crohn's disease, and that was the main problem. But I was hospitalised then with acute pain, so they figured out then it was Crohn's disease. And I would have spent quite a long period of time, maybe over the 2 years, then in and out of hospital with maybe eight to nine surgeries. So it was quite a long extensive time of my life, obviously. But I suppose I kind of have a love-hate relationship with Crohn's disease now, because I've kind of managed it. I'm managing it well at the minute, and for the last 10 years, I managed it well, really. And I'm in a way, I find myself quite lucky that I see so many people now that suffer so much with Crohn's disease, but myself, I'm managing it well, and I guess I'm lucky enough that I get to do. I probably wouldn't be doing what I'm doing only for it, because I wouldn't be working in the health and fitness industry if it wasn't for my diagnosis of it, because that's why I wanted to try to get myself better first, but obviously help other people then with it too.
Yeah, sure. I mean, so what was that? I mean, as you said there, you suffered from a flare-up and were hospitalised with acute pain, and you went through that flare-up for like 6 to 12 months.
Yeah.
And that was the stage then of actually being diagnosed with it in the first place. How old are you then?
I was 16.
So that was that 16 age point.
16
So
age.
is that something that's quite common then, that it comes on to people a bit later in life? I've spoken to quite a few people who didn't get diagnosed until they were sort of like late teens, early adulthood kind of area.
That's very funny, actually. Well, the funny thing about Crohn's disease is that it's so it just varies so much. It's such a varying. My actually older brother got diagnosed there last year, and he never had any sort of symptoms at all. Just started feeling a bit sick, but he's been quite lucky in the way that I suppose the fact that I had it, that they were able to kind of narrow it down fairly straight away. The problem is with it, a lot of people don't get found out for a while, and it takes a while. Someone might feel sick for a long time, but they might just say, "Oh, I just feel a bit sick or feel a bit ill." But and I was quite lucky, because my pain was so acute that I had to go straight to hospital. But he was just feeling unwell for a while, getting sick. He thought it might be the foods he was eating, but it turned out then that after the few tests, the colonoscopy and a few other tests, that he actually had Crohn's disease, and he was actually 30 when he got diagnosed.
Right.
So it is there. But I have heard of cases where people are maybe 12, 11, 10. So I suppose it's not something generally that you'd be in when you're born. They're obviously not going to find out that early. But I suppose the longer it goes on, then when it comes into your teens, it becomes just a bit more visible that you are feeling a bit unwell. And I guess maybe when you're maybe 11 or 12 and you're feeling unwell, you're probably you're not very, very well able to say why you're feeling unwell or when you're feeling unwell, if you get what I'm saying.
Yeah. So it's very much
describing it, maybe, I'd say.
Yeah, and I guess so. It might be something that's quite underlying, but develops over time.
They actually thought it was, when I got sick first, they thought it was actually appendicitis.
Oh right, okay.
Yeah, because there's just that the pain was that acute,
Yeah, so it's very much incredibly individual, isn't it?
It's so much individualized. Yeah,
I think that a lot of the symptoms can be very individualized as well, can't it? Like people, as you said, because it's the whole digestive tract from the mouth all the way down. There must be different areas which can be affected at different times. There must be I guess a collection of different symptoms that can be expressed.
Exactly, yeah. And say for my symptoms, it was the part where I think it's the joining of the, I can't think of the exact region, was the joining of the large and small intestine.
Mm-hmm.
and that's where I was like a small abscess. And so I went through quite a lot of surgeries. Like the problem is with Crohn's disease, your body doesn't heal
Mm-hmm.
quite as well as a normal person would heal. And then obviously then if a surgery doesn't, the surgery, the bowel didn't heal quite as well, and I had a few leaks and that kind of stuff. So that's why I was unfortunate at the time. I had to get a colonoscopy bag,
Mm-hmm.
but a colostomy bag. But I'm one of the lucky ones that I was able to get it reversed. Like obviously there is a lot of people with Crohn's that will have one for the rest of their lives. Like, but I guess when I had the colostomy bag, that it's something that you learn to deal with. I guess like at the time, like it was the worst thing in the world. Obviously, I was 16 years of age, and you can imagine meeting girls. I had a girlfriend at the time. You can imagine how like terrible that is. Like,
Mm-hmm.
but I was quite fortunate that again, as I said, that I kind of knew there was an end to it. Like, and I guess my attitude to life in general, and probably even more since then, it would be like quite relaxed, and that was my attitude towards. But I can only imagine going back now. At the time, it was the worst thing in the world. But I guess I'm kind of, it's like, I know I said this might sound ridiculous, but it's like it was like braces. It's good. I'm happy I got it out of the way, kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. And as you said, that you were in a position where it could get reversed.
Exactly. And there's some people, and as I said, like there's some people that can't. But I suppose for those people, if there's anyone listening that can't get reversed or whatever, like I pretty much, like I got to a stage, I had it on, it was maybe a year and a half maybe, and I was coming to that stage where I was thinking maybe I wouldn't get reversed. But I guess like I was back playing sport, I was back playing football, I was back going to the gym. Football was at the start, it was a bit getting used to, because you might have to run to the toilet in the middle of a game or whatever, if it filled up or whatever. But I guess or even on a night out, if I was drinking, it might fill up, I might have to go to the toilet. But I guess I pretty much lived quite a normal life with it. Like it was incredibly normal. In fact, probably maybe more normal than it should have been nearly. But it was just I guess I never really thought. Maybe it was that young attitude. Maybe it was that 16. I just wanted to be out with my friends, like, and I didn't want it to hold me back.
Mm-hmm. Did you have to moderate things like alcohol and certain types of foods, and do you still have to do that now?
Yeah,
or is it very case dependent?
I found actually it was quite funny at the time. I would have been very, very athletic, but like I would have been really good. Like I was in very good shape at 16, 17 that age. But I lost quite a lot of weight. So maybe 10 and a half stone going into hospital, and I came out with maybe 7 stone. And obviously I was on quite high calorie drinks and that kind of stuff, like.
Mm-hmm.
And that, like the shakes and stuff. But then I got back up to the weight, and I guess I would have been, as a teenager, you're eating quite badly, and like I might be maybe, I don't know what I was, but I just I was definitely eating lots anyway. Like so I would have been just really trying to put back on the weight, so I was really throwing the food into me, like.
Mm-hmm.
And I continued that the whole way through my the time I had the bag. The whole way through, I was really just throwing food at me, trying to put back on muscle, trying to get whey protein shakes, as much as I could.
Mm-hmm.
But then obviously they had the teenage effect. I was eating like loads of like full of shit too, like you might as well, like chocolate, all that kind of stuff, like just being a teenager, but I never really got past. I never really put on that much weight, like, and I always reckon it was obviously because my body wasn't absorbing as much calories, because it wasn't going through the whole way through my body, obviously. That's why that's what I was presuming it was anyway. And it's quite funny because then I got the bag off, and I kind of continued that form of eating. And I remember leaving college, I think it was maybe 12 and a half, 13 stone, and I'm not a tall guy at all, so I was really a little chubby guy leaving college, like. And I suppose until I found until I got into like even though I was studying sports science, you know yourself, and I think we were all being there. I was going through maybe the Joe Wicks kind of diets and that kind of stuff, and I didn't actually know why I really wasn't. I didn't really know I was cutting out carbs. I didn't really know why I wasn't not losing the weight, like, and why I couldn't get back down to the weight I was. But it was obviously just, as you know yourself, just calorie related. But I always didn't know at the time. Like, that's so ridiculous, but it's like this like 5 or 6 years ago, and it's a bit ridiculous, but that's just like everyone's knowledge has just come on so much, I suppose, like that. It just the people that are advising me obviously weren't the best advisors.
Yeah, you just weren't sure about the right sort of needles to move.
Exactly. Yeah.
In terms of dealing with it now, because you said you manage it quite well with flare ups and stuff. Do you find that there are certain foods that you have to lean away from? Are there certain foods that like? What's your diet now in order to manage flare ups? I guess in terms of how do you minimize them?
Yeah. So for me, and as you said, we go back to everything is everyone's different. But for me, I find that quite high starchy foods will kind of get me. Like say, like if I eat a lot of bread, I feel shit. Like if I eat quite, I know that's the same for everyone, but it's a different kind of shit. Like it's kind of
Mm-hmm.
you're just like you're completely. I just feel like completely energy that feel a bit unwell. If I eat quite a lot of like nuts as well. I try it like, and I know it's obviously maybe the MNU or whatever coming out maybe, but and my athletic background, but I eat quite a lot of protein, which we like say meat protein and stuff,
Mm-hmm.
and I just feel that I it just keeps when I stay away from this high starch and like really like nuts especially,
Mm-hmm.
I really find that I just my energy wise everything is just so much better. Like, do you know what I mean? And like as I said, like there is some days when no matter what you do, uh, you're just not going. Your energy wise, you feel a bit lethargic. But I guess I find for me anyway I and it is quite high protein. I'd be taking maybe like I'm only 5'7", 70 kilos, but I might be eating up to maybe 180 grams of protein a day. Like that, it would be
Right.
quite
Yeah.
high.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
um, that's just what I find. That works best for me. That works best for me. Like, do you know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean?
Yeah. I guess because it would be foods that are quite high in fiber and
Yeah.
quite tough to digest and break down. That would be the ones that are quite tough for your digestive system to manage.
Exactly. And that's what I find. And like I said, like people are different, and I don't like to like. But I definitely find with the high protein, and I just feel a bit. I feel a bit better. Like, you know.
Mm-hmm. I guess it comes, as you said, people are different. It comes down to finding what helps them manage the flares better, because there's no sort of like Crohn's diet or anything that people can follow.
That's the thing. Like, and I like it kind of comes back around. Like, I know as Mark McDonald says quite a lot. It's like there's no one diet fits all. Like, and
Mm-hmm.
it's the exact same with this. Like, it's like there is no one diet that fits all. It's finding what fits you and fits and like like what I would have done a lot at the start would have been keeping a little logbook for myself, just to
Mm-hmm.
know like if I did feel unwell I just stick down and maybe this might be in like 5 or 6 hours after I'd eaten, but like it must have been I was well, why am I feeling unwell now? Like what was maybe it had nothing to do, maybe that was just the way, maybe not, but maybe that was the way it was.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it was just a small bit, maybe I just felt unwell, but I would have written down the time. I would have been exact enough as to why I was feeling unwell and like the time. And even like maybe at the end of the day I like it's another thing, it's probably a bit over the top maybe, but at the end of the day I might have like I would have written out wellness scores, how well did I feel that day, like
Mm-hmm.
as a general basis, and maybe there was something the day before or that night before that I would have eaten that maybe would have made me feel unwell that morning and that kind of, you're not gonna, so like you really have to like just figuring out exactly what works for you and what
Mm-hmm.
like maybe there is going to be something that's going to set you off, just figuring out what that is.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a great idea. I think if people could have a written journal to even document things like sleep and stress on a daily basis as well.
Exactly, and like I like I've been quite lucky the last 10 years, but I would find in exam time now I get it'd be the one time like I'm not an over like studious person, and I find I get very stressed. And my lifestyle, like me as a person, I'm very relaxed, but I
Mm-hmm.
would find when it comes to exams or something, I will get quite stressed about. Like,
Mm-hmm.
so I think like everyone will have that little trigger, like, and like it's like I've tried training people like with what like loads of like stomach issues and that kind of stuff, and they find a stress like stress does affect them, like, don't they? Like, so I think like stress is definitely something that you need to watch too when it comes to Crohn's disease. Sleep, as you said, like I think it's a lifestyle as a whole. Like, and like even I'd say like I read an awful lot about exercise and Crohn's, and like running long distances wouldn't be recommended really. Like, so maybe stick to the weight room. Maybe like that's only one piece of like, that's obviously again it mightn't work for everyone. But a lot of research shows that like a lot of long distance running mightn't be a great thing for someone with Crohn's disease.
It's
And
probably going to
obviously
be
stay away from smoking is like the number one thing.
Yeah, I mean, I think we would advise pretty much everyone
not to smoke,
not to smoke,
yeah.
based on the sort of stuff that we know now. But I think, yeah, the long distance running is an interesting component, because I guess that would come down to carbohydrate consumption and digestion again, wouldn't it?
Exactly,
Unless
and
that they were
speeding up the digestive tract, I suppose.
right, yeah, because those are things that they want to pretty much avoid.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So, what would you recommend? I mean, as you said there, you stick mostly to the weights room. Like, do you find with training that you have to auto-regulate your training based on your symptoms, based on the way you feel, or
Yeah, or like 100%. Like if like I guess like it does, like it's the same as anyone really, like, but like it's magnified more, I think, when you have like a chronic illness like Crohn's disease, like, you know, kind of way like that. It's definitely magnified more for the fact that it just affects your body. Like, your body is going to be affected more. Like, say for instance, if you're not feeling 100% that day, like maybe just don't go crazy. Like, you know, just literally feel how, like, as stupid as it sounds, like if you're after not after having a great night's sleep, your food might immigrate. You felt unwell all day. Don't go mad in the gym. Don't push yourself ridiculously hard. And I find, like, especially with my pitch sessions with the Gaelic football now, I like we're coming into January now, so the training will be the preseason training, or the preseason training is going to be very hard. Like, but I will have to watch myself like that. I'll have no energy if I really on some days, if I really kill myself the night before, like because I genuinely have to run to the toilet if I was going after a really heavy running session, if I wasn't feeling great. So you just have to really have to watch yourself, like, and just control the training, and you just listen to your body. That's the number one piece of advice. Just listen to your body.
Yeah. So you still play football now to this day? You still do it now, and so I guess with what you were just saying there in terms of like long distance running and high endurance events, I mean, with something like a team sport, when you're playing for an extended period of time, it's very stop start, but it's a lot of, you know, like fast paced activity, then long and steady. Like, are you able to go sort of full games without having certain issues? Are you then sort of out afterwards? Like, what's your kind of recovery time from those?
Yeah, like, I suppose like recovery time, like, as I said, like, maybe it's because of my because of the high protein and like the recovery, but I find it's not too bad, to answer you. Like, I obviously at the start it would have been a bit difficult, but I find with games it's not necessarily too bad. But I find with, as I said, with the high intensity running trainings, you just find yourself like, you'd be in the middle of a sprint and you just need to go to the toilet. Like, try and staying away from too much caffeine. Like, I'm a big advocate of the caffeine gum, really, because I find that is much more. I used to be taking pre-workout, and sure, it was just driving me crazy altogether. Like, but it was just like I was like, what is wrong with me? Like, but
I think that happens to normal people without Crohn's as well, to be honest.
But the caffeine gum is a lot more. It's just a lot easier, like, on the body, for me anyway. But just as small things like that, again, like, maybe like not eat, like, as I said, it brings it back, but just don't be stupid. Don't eat like too close to the training session. Like, maybe just eat, maybe it could be even 3 to 4 hours out. Like, maybe have a Lucozade Sport then maybe 45 minutes beforehand. Like, so maybe not trying to stay away from the likes of, maybe it's grand for an normal person maybe to have a banana or something 40 minutes. But I'd find I'd be running straight to the toilet, maybe with a banana or something, like, you know.
Yeah. So it's looking at the type of carbohydrates as well that you're consuming around training sessions.
Exactly. And like, as I said, like, this has been a lot of trial and error for me as well. So going back to the journal thing, how did I feel during the match? How did I feel before the game? What was my energy levels like? So really, like, even if you can even have some sort of system where you mark stuff out of 5, or not gonna, so it's just simple things that can really make the difference to your performance.
Yeah, like almost like a daily readiness
Exactly.
questionnaire where you write, as you said, feelings out of 5 of different things, and then you can auto-regulate your training and intensity based on that as well in further
Exactly.
sessions,
Yeah.
which is very important. I guess, I mean, one of the things that a lot of people struggle with actually with Crohn's, as you said, is putting on mass,
Yeah.
because a lot of people when they're first diagnosed will lose a lot of weight because of the symptoms, and quite a bit of muscle mass will come
Yeah.
from that. What
Exactly. Yeah.
what was your, I mean, as you said, when you got into uni, you kind of like just ate a load of food and found yourself
Yeah.
getting a fair big. But in terms of training for muscle gain and nutrition for muscle gain for those with Crohn's, is that your kind of hot take in terms of the protein intake probably needs to be higher than what you'd recommend for a normal individual? And
Yeah. Well,
just,
like, and that's what I found for myself. Until I joined the MNU course, I suppose I didn't really how would I say it? Like, I suppose I didn't really understand a lot about like calories and stuff and protein and what protein levels. But then like I've really found over the last year and a half, because I've upped my protein levels, like I would have been, I wouldn't, I since I've been diagnosed, I would have been very much into hypertrophy training, because I felt like that I just needed to, I guess, put on muscle again. And I suppose like I would continue that back, and it mightn't be, to be honest with you, it's not for my sport, it's not the best training to be doing, but I feel for me, in order to keep maintaining and building muscle, I've kept up with hypertrophy training and such.
mm-hmm.
And then when it comes to my protein levels, I found since I've really upped my protein, I've obviously feel better, but my muscle mass and everything is just stabilized so much more. Like, and
Mm-hmm.
I guess my performances have improved because of it. Like,
Yeah. Well, definitely. I think we know, as you know, malnutrition certified nutritionists, that protein is very important for recovery gains, and getting in plenty of it at a regular rate is a very good thing for most people, especially if they're playing sports or training hard. And I think, as you said, for people with Crohn's, then it's a case of making sure they are definitely in a position of protein, positive protein balance because of that, because of their symptoms. So it's a good thing for people to
exactly. And
recognize.
I said, everyone's different, but maybe even if they were to try, like I said, everyone's different. It's same as any sort of diet. There's no one diet fits all. And it's the exact same with Crohn's. There's no one diet that's going to fit you or fit your lifestyle. But I guess I hope that even if they can even take one thing from this episode, like just even the journaling might make a massive difference to their life. Like, you know.
Yeah, I was just going to say, like, in terms of your sort of top tips or sort of top thoughts on it, I think the training, the feeling and journal about, and having that corresponding with nutrition, even if it's written down,
Yeah.
because you're able to then write down what it is you've eaten, how you've slept, what your stress is like, and then you can manage your symptoms based on your sort of feedback.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
And even when it comes to training, there's probably a lot of people that are listening to this that are or maybe doing CrossFit or whatever. But I guess if they can just like monitor the training, like how did they, as they go back to how did they feel that day, like, and how did they feel for that session, or just it's all about monitoring your own, and like you maybe like, and obviously bring it back. Then obviously don't blame it all on your Crohn's either, like, because obviously like you might just got a shit night's sleep. So
Mm-hmm.
it's not it mightn't be always down to the Crohn's either.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess trying to figure that out.
Yeah, I mean that's a great point, is to honor your Crohn's, but don't blame them all the time,
Exactly, and that's
because
and like try like, and I'd be very much like I actually follow like likes of Crohn's and Colitis UK and that kind of stuff on Instagram,
mhm,
and like they do I do some really good work. Don't get me wrong, but I guess like we don't you don't want to slip into a kind of a victim mindset, a victim
mhm,
mentality when it comes to
mhm,
your Crohn's disease. And it is very easy. Like if you're feeling shit during the day, it is very easy to do that.
mhm.
But I guess as we bring it back to like the stress levels or whatever, but having a positive outlook, I guess, and that's, I know it's very airy fairy and it's not scientific or whatever, but I'd be a very strong believer of like, as when it comes to any illness, you might see it with cancer or any illness at all,
Yeah.
like really having a positive outlook, I guess, and I'd say don't slip into that bubble of like you often hear that I again come back to the Crohn's colitis UK, it's okay not to be okay, and it's completely okay not to be okay, but just don't like, you're not someone with, you're not Crohn's disease. Like, you're just someone who has happened to have Crohn's disease. Like, so don't
Hmm.
let it define you. It's like someone who is currently undertaking a ketogenic diet. You're
Hmm.
not keto. It's literally just, you're someone who has this, like, the way my view on my own illness is, everyone has something wrong with them. Like, at
Hmm.
some point, I was unfortunate enough. I find it's unfortunate, but you have to live with it, and you have to move on, and you just manage it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a really good point. And I think as you said, it might sound like airy fairy or not so sciencey, but I think there's definitely something for the body keeping the score, and it reflecting the way you feel mentally about certain things. I think that attitude is definitely very key. It's easy for me to say it with someone who doesn't have something
Yeah,
like Crohn's, but for it to come from you, I think that's a pretty good
yeah. There's some, like,
a good
I
remark.
see so much, like, you see so much, like, posting, but it's just literally just, yeah, yeah, obviously feel sorry for yourself at times, and it's perfectly okay to do that, but definitely don't let it define you. Like, and that's definitely the biggest point. Don't let it, like, it shouldn't define you.
No, no, I think that's a great place to finish on. Cormac, where can people find more about what it is that you do at the moment with clients, and about you as a person, I guess?
Yeah, well, my main stream will be Cormac _ Blues on Fitness, and I plug my own podcast there. It's the Healthy Commute podcast that you've actually been on yourself. So
I have, yeah. There's a bit of cross sharing going on here.
yeah,
No, good, mate. I appreciate you coming on and talking about such a topic with such, like openness as well. I really appreciate that, and I hope that the listeners have taken down some decent tips for how they can manage it themselves if they are suffering from it.
yeah. And thanks so much, John, for having me on. And it's supposed to be real. As I said, like, I suppose it's something that I'm very passionate about. And I probably don't talk about it enough. Because I suppose when I was younger with the colostomy bag and all, I would have been very, like, kind of self-conscious about it. But I think as I've got older, I suppose you give less shits, I suppose,
Yeah,
and
for want of a better
honestly,
term.
the pun.
Yeah, very good. No, I think as you said, it's good to talk about now, and I think you could probably help a lot of people with sharing that information more often. So it's good to kind of get it out there. Thanks, man.
No worries. Thanks very much for that. And I hope you have a good Christmas, and all the listeners.
Ah, yeah, you too, mate.